studying Bitcoin is not everything about buy Bitcoin itself. Learned what it means to it. Like, what it's going to teach you. It's going to teach you low time preference. It's going to teach you to build, to be kinder, not want to be all the time in the photo and recognition, because not even, the creator of the best invention in the history of our time, to me, wanted to be there, like wanted to have his name stamp on it.
Reyna, I'm stoked to have you in here. For people that don't know Reyna, she's been involved with Me Premier Bitcoin for quite a while now. I'm one of the main leaders over there, and we had John Dennehy on here last month talking, but I am eager to get into things and hear about it from a Salvadoran perspective. So thank you for coming down today.
No, yes, of course, Mike. I'm super excited, honestly, super happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me. When I got a message, I was like, what? Seriously? Like, Bitcoin Beach podcast. So thank you for having me here too, and appreciate.
Well, I would love to hear a little bit of your backstory because I don't know it. So I would love to hear how you got involved with Me Premier Bitcoin, what was kind of your entry point, what got you interested in Bitcoin. And then later on the podcast, we'll dive more into just what you see as a Salvadoran as the impact Bitcoin's having on the country. For people that just follow the international news, they like to paint it as a failure. For people in the Bitcoin space, it's become like the promised land, and they think everything's amazing here. And so obviously those things, usually the truth falls in the middle of those things. So we'd love to hear from your perspective, but we'll get into that a little bit later. First, I want to know your story.
Yes, of course. So I was born and raised. I'm Salvadorian, born and raised here.
In San Salvador?
In San Salvador, okay. Yes, in San Salvador with my parents. They're actually from the opposite sides of the country. How they met is really funny. They were just neighbors in San Salvador after their parents brought them in.
Okay, so where were they originally from?
So my mom is from Apaneca, in the high hills, and my dad is from Usulutan.
Oh, really? Yeah. Very opposite.
Very opposite, yeah. So we get to enjoy both weathers.
Okay, yeah.
The heat and the cold. I tend to go more to see my mom's family.
Yeah.
Much better. So
Usulut, I gotta admit, Usulutan's one of my least favorite places because it's super hot, but it's not on the beach either.
No,
you still have to go ways to the beach.
Exactly, yeah. And he's from a little town called Jiquilisco.
Okay,
and
so that's more closer to the water then, right?
Sort of, but it's just like you said, it's just not close to the water and you feel that heat.
Yeah. You get the heat without the benefit of being able to go in the ocean.
Exactly, and not even the beach breeze, right? So we grew up there, and they come from different backgrounds, of course. None of them actually finished, like professional university or anything, and I'm super grateful that they tried to give me the best education that they could to their possibilities. So growing up...
Well, speaking to that, and maybe I'm interrupting you and you were going to tell me.
No, that's okay.
But, I mean, your English is amazing. So I'm curious as to how you learned English. Did you study it in school? Did you go to a bilingual school? Or what was the process for that?
Well, I received in school just, the basics that they teach you here. And I went to a private school, but it wasn't a bilingual either. And when I turned 18, and then when you come to realize that you're an adult and, what are you going to start doing? I saw learning English, to become fully bilingual as an opportunity for more job options. The call center industry, this is going to make me sound super old, but it was picking up here in El Salvador. The industry now is pretty big.
Yeah.
But back then, they were literally was rumors. Just you would hear, they've come these new places and they said that they pay well, which is true. And it was true. It's funny how they can keep, now the same salary that it was 12 years ago. And now with inflation and everything, I'm like, it wouldn't be a good salary for me now. So that's how I learned. But I wanted to go all in. So I learned when I was 20. I tried to do other things, but it's hard, right? If you start literally with a high school degree and then you just go to work at Pizza Hut, things like that. What you do as a sort of young adult, your latest years of a teenager, and just trying to figure it out. So I did. I went to university.
Hey guys, just a brief interruption. We'll get back to the exciting show here, but I just want to really ask a favor that you guys could make sure that you're subscribed if you're watching this on YouTube. If you are listening to this on a podcast, please take a second and review this. You don't even have to write a lengthy review or anything at all. Just click the number of stars that you want to give us. It really helps us in the algorithms to make sure people are finding out about what's happening here. All right, back to the show.
I studied 3 years of psychology, and it was also trying to balance that. So, fast forward, trying to work part-time at a call center and then work, and then life hits you. And actually, it's funny because even the 2008 crisis, the financial crisis, did affect some of the work that my dad had here. So that's when you had to sort of step up. Yeah. And then, so I had to cover full-time, switch. So I left.
Well, I remember even here in El Zonte feeling that it was at first I thought, well, it won't really affect El Salvador, but because there's so many connections and intermingling of the U.S. and here, and so many Salvadorans sending remittances back, and so many Salvadorans that have businesses in the U.S., that you felt it really strong here.
Yes. I speaking even with, friends that I have in Guatemala, when I went, and we're going to get into that about that part, they remember, I was like, oh yeah, a lot of, businesses and taco and things like in big maquilas, how would you say that? Maquiladores, closed off. And I was like, yeah, because they had to shut down because of the US. So they were these people that had big, medium to big businesses, right? As a family, as an entrepreneur. So it did. And that's when I wasn't sure I was going to go back, but it was starting to feel to me like it was like just studying and really no end to it. Like that part of the university didn't feel like it was going to make me, I don't know where my dreams were exactly. I'm not saying I have everything figured out, but I didn't feel like, I don't know if I'm going to finish this, what for. I worked in the call center industry for about 7 years, different positions. Started as an agent and then growing, but still it got something. I was feeling in my life something was off, or just stuck probably.
And just on a little bit of a side note for people in the U.S. that don't understand how it is here, traditionally, like the call center industry has been a very good paying job. Like you've said, maybe the salaries haven't kept up as it's gotten bigger, but it was something that many college graduates would go to college to be able to go into the call centers. And it's very different than in the U.S. because in the U.S. it's really seen as like a very low level job, and they get, from what I've been told, some of the most unreliable employees are the ones that. So one of my wife's friends who's Salvadoran, she was running a call center here, and they had a call center in the U.S. and they asked her to go run it there. And she said after 6 months, she's like, no, I can't do this. The people show up drunk or on drugs. And it was, she was used to working with, pretty professional people here in the industry. But there she's like, it was the bottom of the barrel. So
yes, you are absolutely right. Because even when I went after and part working and part paying for my English classes, I used to go in the mornings, and I will have an assistant job. I remember sort of for a legal lawyers. I can't remember well. And I will get home, work, and I probably got I went to 2-3 times different interviews when I wanted to work for a call center, and they didn't accept me yet. I needed to have certain level
of English.
Of English. Being so young, it was easier for the computer side, and you do all the tests, and that part is well. The fluency was there, and I don't know, maybe that was my push up to continue going. And then eventually, yes, you're right. When it's a highly professional and serious sort of work, you go and your shift, you have to be 15 minutes early and so on. And if you perform well and you want to grow, which is why I was also having that vision. I studied psychology because I really liked it, but it was also sort of going into, okay, if I want to grow, and this is sort of the things that I like the most, maybe I'm going to go and, work in human resources. So that was the idea. But then I started to see what it was like, the corporate life, and feeling definitely not the best vibe. And after so many years, so one of these, and that's the culture here sometimes of work, when you actually really work, we have a high standards of work. So I forgot that I was working, and had accumulated up to 2 years of 3 years, no vacations.
Okay.
And that's when I started to go into Guatemala. And I started to go to Guatemala on Fridays, and I would come back on Sundays because it's so close.
Yeah.
And I went to Antigua, Guatemala. For the ones that've been there, it's beautiful. I really liked it. And I don't know, it was just some of these times that you just go YOLO. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I want to live here. And so I moved, and I lived there, and I actually
In
went
Antigua.
in Antigua.
Okay. Wow.
In Antigua for like 4 years.
Antigua is beautiful.
It's so pretty. Yeah. I said I was going to give it a try and do 1 year, and I stayed almost 5 years until COVID hit. And what
were you doing for work while you were there?
So I did a little bit of everything, actually, because it's sort of a little bit of touristic party town.
Yeah.
I was like, if I study something on bartending, I'm sure I'm gonna get a job. So I took this course here in PAC, one of this high cuisine. So I did a course for bartending, which is funny because you just learn all of these cocktails and mixers. All over there, just people order beer. Yeah, exactly. They just order beer, and that was it. So, but I also left, and I don't want to say like I really, really wanted to go. I wanted a change, but it was at a peak when El Salvador was too dangerous.
Yeah.
Like you will feel trapped on both. So I think that's what it came down to it. It was the corporate life plus feeling no future. Yeah. And I left in late 2016, early 2017. I was back and forth trying to find a job.
Yeah, that's when it was really getting bad here.
It was really getting bad. And I feel, at least personally, I'm not saying this is for every Salvadorian, but I love my country. Like, I really love it here. And then it never was a thing of, I'm going to go, I'm never going to look back, and I don't want to come here. My family's here. There is just this blind love. Like, when you're in love, right? And the place is bad, but you just love it. And that's how it was for me. So, because, we have 90 days, so I will still go back and forth to reset my staying. And so I did bartending, and then I guess skills or whatever. I worked at a reception at a hostel of a friend that I met, and she was the owner. I didn't know she was the owner, and because of my English was better. And then eventually they made me hostel manager and bar manager. So I learned as we go in skills, and I held those positions. And that's when it kind of got a little bit more serious for me living there and working, and I had fun. Then I switched I wanted to just get serious. And you met so many people there, Antigua is beautiful but tiny. So when you live there, it's just a little. El Salvador is small. You already know everybody. Antigua is even smaller. So everybody. A friend opened a Spanish school, like online in person, right end of 2019. So it was
in Antigua.
In Antigua.
And that's one of the things Antigua is known for, is Spanish schools.
Spanish schools, yeah.
My wife and I went to study there when we first moved down here for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. It's known for go and people, because it's so nice, right? Like you go and study.
The weather's perfect.
All the way. And it's running. And then when COVID 2020 happened, that online picked up because, it was a bad time to open an in-person stuff. Tourism went down. I never thought. It was crazy to me to see the town empty.
So were you in Antigua during COVID?
I was. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got stuck there. I was.
Oh, yeah, because you couldn't come back at that point.
I couldn't come back, no. And especially because the government here actually put quarantine. So if I would come back, I would stay at a place, and I didn't want to do that. So we just had to go there to get the permissions of immigration to sign it that once you entered, that you were not going to pass on, and that was it. Yeah. So that's when I stayed. And then I come back here. So end of 2020 is when my brother actually introduced me to Bitcoin. I don't know how he found out, actually. I don't think he even remembers. I wish, sometimes people ask me, and I wish there was a moment when I was, that was it. Yeah. There wasn't. It was just, and at the beginning, it was just more a way to make more dollars, right? But yeah, end of 2020, I came back. And that was my year I was planning to come back. COVID and everything exceptional. So we came in. I really wanted to do something else. I don't know. I just feel like I should come back home, right? I should come back home and do some work. And I was back then. So for COVID, what I did in, lockdowns, I enrolled in courses to develop and learn more online skills, be able to work remotely. I wasn't traveling, but when you live and talk to people that travels all the time, it makes you, part of their experiences. And working at a hostel, you just hear so many. I'm grateful to have so many friends around the world that I can go and just crash on their couch that I haven't seen, but we're still in touch. Yeah. Because they will stay, especially the ones that we got stuck in COVID, which is bonded. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to travel and to see other places and have that freedom. To me, it all came down to that. I think maybe now quitting at call centers and quitting other jobs that are physical, that are more for just freedom. I just wanted to experience and see what it was. And I'm not that young, but I feel like here in El Salvador, that you get older at home. So it's just so known that if you don't plan to get married or anything, it's like they assume that you're never gonna leave your house. But I wanted to see it. It's a different culture. Sometimes friends don't understand why.
Yeah. No,
why you
even
still
here
do-
for a lot of kids that, in the US, usually when you go away to
Yeah.
university, you move. Here,
Yeah.
most people, when they go to university, they're still living at home. And that's, very common for them to live at home, till
Yeah.
they get married, or sometimes even when they do get married, they're still living in the
still-
home for a
Yeah,
while.
that's true. Yeah.
So you work on it. You broke that mold. You had a
I
different
wanted to,
path.
I broke that mold. And I mean, and now with the economy and everything, it's a decision with my siblings and I. We live with our parents at a bigger house and we all have our life and everything.
Yeah.
But because we're also very close, like we get, I think it's not super common here. We have a super good relationship with my family. Like they're my friends. I just brought them here to have lunch with me and see and everything. And I just enjoy the time because I don't want to take it for granted, especially after COVID. That's what happened to me. I was like, the time I get to enjoy you guys, we're here, and the time that we just want to split up and travel, then we go. But so we're still there at home, right? Just trying to have a life somehow. And yeah, I make jokes with them. I'm like, you wanted grandkids, but you were so, now there isn't any.
So your brother introduced you to Bitcoin. And then how did that lead to you winding up with Mi Primer Bitcoin?
So I studied, I started, I think one of my first purchases, it was probably Binance, like when I bought some Bitcoin. Then we heard the rumors of the law, and
so you bought before the law
I
was
bought
passed.
before.
Okay.
Yeah, I bought before, a little bit before. And then when we heard the rumors, I was like, so we should maybe study this, because if it's going to come here, let's just at least figure out what it is. I'm happy that I found Andreas Antonopoulos and all of these videos and all other crypto stuff. So I never got into crypto or anything at all. I think
you were a Bitcoin maxi from the start.
From the start,
All
yeah.
right.
It's funny. I think sometimes women, we try to be a little bit more conservative or careful with the money.
Yeah.
So just looking at prices, I didn't understand anything, but just looking at the price of Bitcoin and the price of, ETH, like, I guess this one, let's just do this one for now, just in case, because it doesn't seem like the other one, although it's the second largest, right? I understand now everything. But so I was actually one of the first ones that in my family, right? Like I was like, why are we gonna get Bitcoin as a legal tender? It just doesn't make any sense. We don't even have the best internet infrastructure in El Salvador. This thing works with internet. It doesn't. But I didn't understand the full capacity of everything. I own it, and this is how I know that Max. Sometimes it's for me a little bit of definitely a legend. I remember seeing hearing the talks of Andreas, and he will say, "Is that Max asking a question?" And that's when it's like, "Oh my God, this guy's been around for a while, right?" Like these are YouTube videos of 2014. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's definitely one of the OGs in the space.
Yes, you see the videos, and it's like three white geeky guys in there, and now I see the conferences, and we do all of this stuff, and we want more women involved too. So after that, I believe I saw also, just doing research, this video here of YouTuber. It's actually kind of famous traveler YouTuber that came to El Salvador after the law had passed and wanted to see if it was true that everything here. And somehow he got involved. John, we talked to John about that the last time he was here at your podcast. He didn't know this story. I was like, this is how I found you. They used to hold this meetup at Bamboo. And I was like, oh, who are these guys? That's cool. That is something happening here. Maybe I should go. Fast forward, it was like almost a year that I didn't show up. After living in Guatemala, I didn't have so many close friends here, and then nobody wanted to go with me, and I didn't want to go on my own. I didn't know. So when we went to a meetup, I will believe it was like middle of 2022, maybe. I met with Napo. I told him I want to learn more, what you guys do, and can I take any classes? But after conversations, he asked me, it's like, what do you need to know? It seems like you are pretty much, you know what it is. And I started going to graduations, you just volunteered on going to certifications.
Mhm.
And I
With Me
volunteered
Premier
with Me
Bitcoin.
Premier
Yeah.
Bitcoin. That's how we got involved. Yeah, Me Premier Bitcoin. And then I offered, I can do this. I've been an executive assistant and project manager for this content creator. Whatever you need, I can do something. We never got anything concrete, but I was just already there. I took the Bitcoin diploma, and that's how that Lago Bitcoin opportunity came along. I was actually in Guatemala. I did a month there because I lived, and I went to a friend, and we just traveled because I was working remotely. So we just did the whole Antigua, the lake, and Shella trip. And Napo messaged me that John said that if I was interested in going to Guatemala and teach Bitcoin diploma and Bitcoin over there. And at first, I was honestly going to say no. I was like, I've never teach Bitcoin. I just took it. I want to learn more. So, but anyway, I went, and it was supposed to be 10 weeks. And I ended up staying 6 months. I believe it was
And you were at the
well.
lake the whole time.
At the lake the whole
Okay.
time. Yeah, the lake the whole time. I probably
And
left
this was with the Lago Bitcoin project.
the Lago
Yeah.
Bitcoin project.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Eliezer. Back then it was Patrick. And so we, because
And
they had.
this is in Guatemala right here.
This is
right?
in Guatemala.
Okay.
Yeah, this is one of the schools. We got, so over there we had to go and knock on doors. I really thought that it was maybe more advanced already, the project, but we realized that it wasn't. So we went to schools, opened. So even for this school, we had to teach a little bit to the teachers first. They wanted to see what was going to be what the kids will learn. And because of, the good reputation that El Salvador has over there now, we have, the violence was way worse than Guatemala back in the days.
Yeah.
And last year, they will ask me, is it true, everything? And I'm like, yes, it is true. You feel a little bit, this prophet going and saying everything. So they're like, okay, yeah. I told them, I'm Salvadorian, this is what we do, and show them the materials, the pictures, and everything. So they agreed, and we did it in two different schools. One of them actually, now they change because they change location and they paint the mural. I wish I had one of these pictures where it says, learning education, and it's like technology, and it has a Facebook logo, but it has a Bitcoin logo too. Like, this is what we teach the kids. Yeah. So it's really cool. And we went basically just, going businesses. They have, Lisa have done a really good job there, Orange Peel businesses. So we would go to the owners, or at least the staff, if they wanted to learn a little bit. Some of them, yes, some of them, no, but it's just what it is. So that's how we went, and we stayed there and, just try to push the project more. I believe their goal is to stay. This is one of the students at the graduation. That's really cool. Rudy was a volunteer. He works now with Blink.
Okay.
I believe. I saw him the other day at the anniversary party.
Nice.
Really, really cool. Yeah, really nice experience. So when I was there is when it was, I told John this story too in the team, that when at the beginning of 2023 last year, that's why I was in Guatemala too, when they messaged me in February, I was just trying to find, that those epiphanies that you have in life.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Is my work has any meaning or meaningful, in trying to, just channel your energy towards something more significant. So I really never expected that this was gonna be it. In a way, when I was in at the lake, it was probably 2 or 3 months in that I decided, little by little, I was just, so I went where I was gonna teach, but I was still having my other jobs as a freelance, and I started quitting.
Paco, can you switch it back to the other picture? I want a follow-up question for her.
Yeah, and so I remember expressing this for the very first time to a friend. I was like, I think I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna keep doing this. He was like, oh, you're gonna become one of these Bitcoiners? I was like, it's just so I wasn't thinking that I was gonna teach for so long at all, but something involved, definitely something involved, to having that part of my work and life will come together, like with good energy and meaningful. I think sometimes living with a purpose means that, to just go and work towards, having a sense of, or be driven by a sense of service, either a service to others, teach, grow as a personal, or, just serve the people around you in the world.
No, I love that. So I've got a question for you. I'm just kind of curious. So I noticed that the young lady here that's receiving the diploma, she has the traditional Mayan dress, and that's for people who haven't really traveled in this area. it's very different in Guatemala. They still have a very distinct indigenous culture with different languages spoken in a lot of places. For a lot of people, Spanish isn't their first language, and there is a big distinction between the Mayan population and what sometimes they refer to as Ladinos, like
Yeah,
the more like Spanish
true.
heritage. And so and a lot of times that has caused conflict, and there's been things, but I'm kind of surprised, and I love seeing that she's getting the diploma, because historically they've been less educated
Yep.
and not likely to embrace something like this. So I'm curious where a lot of the students come from the Mayan population. I know around the lake there's a lot of Mayans in that area.
Yeah, and they were. So they, for example, the teachers, a lot of the teachers, the female teachers, do wear the traditional clothes. That was one of the first. So when the Patrick for Lago Bitcoin first asked John, we want to have a teacher from Imperial Bitcoin, it would be possible to go. And for some reason, they said they wanted a female.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons that also why I went. And we were wondering why. Why is it a specific woman?
Yeah.
So it sounds weird, right? Like at the
Yeah.
beginning, it's like, why do you want a woman?
Like, what am I getting into here?
Yeah, exactly. So what happened is, and I saw that with Eliezer, there was this resistance when you would go at little tienda, for example. It's like, hey, we wanted to talk to you about this and this. And if it's a guy, they would be like, what? What are you talking to me about, money? Or why do I need to use another payment method? What is this? But it definitely will switch the energy, the ambience, everything with a woman involved,
Mm-hmm.
which is how it went. I will teach the females for some reason, like the ones that had got more comfortable with me, business owners, all of them. They, for some reason, they never wanted to take lessons with Eliezer, but they did.
Yeah.
They did with me, and I think it's a culture. You're right. At the lake, there is a highly predominant Mayan community still, and the kids. It's a little bit. I mean, it's good. They had that pride, which I really love to keep it, but they also feel left out.
Yeah.
They feel left out of
Excluded from,
and it's exactly the word that you said. The Latinos, like for example, Rudy is Guatemalan from the city. They would call him Latinos.
Yeah.
And
which is, you don't have that in El Salvador. In El
not
Salvador,
anymore.
It's, except for a few isolated areas, it's just very mixed. So you don't have that distinction. But in Guatemala, it's still very distinct.
Yes. And in here, we have even lost, traditional clothes. We don't wear them anymore.
Yeah.
Probably 15, 20 years ago, you will still see an old lady at Nahuizalco or at Tacos wearing that, but not here. And over there is still, so the girls can wear that and it's good. It's not like, oh, I'm just gonna wear this clothes. When you go, I heard this from a friend. She went to have a meeting at the bank. She wanted to ask for another loan because she wanted to include her, and she was wearing that. It's like, oh, I've never seen you with the traditional clothes. I thought that you wouldn't wear. I thought it was just your mom, because normally the younger ones tend to, wear pants and everything. She's like, no. I went to the bank, and it's more formal to wear this. Like so it's like if you're going to an important meeting, and they will go with their traditional clothes, which is really, it's really cool, because it's this community is trying to step up and do their own work and not lost their culture. Like the world is evolving, but they still want to keep that identity.
Yeah, and each group has different patterns that they weave into their clothes.
Exactly.
So you can tell from the different areas.
Yes, that's true.
It's a very long process to make them too. That's all by hand.
And they're very expensive.
Yeah.
Like they're very expensive to have one of these. It's not. Oh, you're just wearing like a blanket. They're very well made. And you're right. I believe it's around 23 something towns, but the majors are like 5 or 6 towns around the lake, because that's a massive lake. And yes, every town has their own distinctive colors and the way to wear them and their hair too. So it was a really nice experience. I lived in Guatemala for 5 years. I never experienced that until I was there. I barely left the lake. I think after I was getting a little bit of a hermit, just living there. But it was a definitely nice experience, especially with the young girls, for sure. As a woman, that was special for me.
And did you notice any difference between the Mayan students and the Ladino students and how they embraced Bitcoin, or do you feel like it was pretty equal for both of them, like the way they approached it and the way they saw it.
It was equal in the sense that because I was just at the lake, so it was equal. Oh, but actually, no, that's a good question because the other school was a bilingual. The lake is a little bit like now El Salvador is becoming, it's full of expats, and they have kids, and the kids speak English. So I teach this class where they were, kids from Argentinian backgrounds, the United States, France, and the lake. And this is what is amazing for me about, kids. There is no any self conscious of, oh, you are different, I'm different, blah blah. They're just friends and kids, and they embrace it the same. They loved it. I'm not saying they got everything, and probably at this stage some of the things they don't remember, but if you ask them who's not Satoshi Nakamoto, they definitely remember. They would remember about inflation, and when we had at this game about the auction, how money is created. The kids, they love it to play, of course, to get more just fake bills to pay for things. So they it was the same. Like and I think that's the beauty of teaching young kids. That is something in adults too, when it clicks and everything, and you feel that. But with kids, it's just that they are not predisposed. Like for us, it's sort of unlearning other things, and they are not unlearning anything. They are just receiving, and they're little sponges.
I never thought about it like that before. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's so that was it to me. At the beginning, I was like, this is gonna be a challenge. It's kids. How am I gonna teach them about this? And it was easier. It was way, way easier than adults. Way, way easier.
So that was your first experience, and then I know you traveled to a number of other countries after that or at least a couple other countries for speaking opportunities. So how did that involve into that? How'd you wind up in Hong Kong? What was the?
I know, right? So right after it was the second time I was getting into a plane, and they invited us to go to this mining summit. They sent a DM actually to the Mi Primer Bitcoin Twitter, and John at the beginning thought that it was a scam. And I was like, yeah, this is not going to be true. They said that they're going to pay for everything. They actually did. They pay you for flights, and you just stay at a 5-star hotel.
Nice.
And I was packing my bags to come to El Salvador. So when I was at the lake, is when I told the team, I was like, hey, if there is a spot for me full time, I would like to take it. Like, let's work something out. And little by little, I started quitting my other clients. And this opportunity came along. It was China, so I thought I needed a visa, but you don't need for Hong Kong specifically. You need for mainland China, which is sort of easier to get here now with the good relationships. But so I went. It was the first time also that I would be speaking publicly like that, like in a sense. So it's this little walls that are you pushing your brain, just one more push, which is what has been for me the Bitcoin journey in a sense. First you learn on your own, then is to express it, to teach others, but then to go and try to not convince, but just the people, the work that we do here, that is valuable, help us out.
And probably jet lagged after the long flight.
So much, yeah. And we got stuck. We got stuck twice because the first time, and that was our fault, we didn't check. I didn't remember. The UK wasn't in the European Union anymore. So we needed a visa to go through. To transit through. So we got stuck in Spain one night. We were supposed to go 2 days at least to recover from the jet lag, and we got there the day before actually to the start. They will give us an extra day, and then we got, because of all of these Middle East countries in fight, the second night there was an issue with this aerial space. So also we got stuck in Amsterdam. It was a journey. So 12 hours. So it was like, from here to Europe is at least 10 hours. Then it was another 3 hours to the other country. And then it was 12 hours straight on a plane. And I remember going to the bathroom in the plane. I was like, when is this going to end? When is this going to end? It was too much. So it was really nice. When I came, I was dead. I think it took me like a week to recover. And for being so young, I was like, okay, this travel thing is another thing. And after that, I mean...
So the conference, did the people that you talked to, were they aware of what was happening with Bitcoin in El Salvador? Did you feel like that, or was it like they're in their own little world over there?
They are this especially in Hong Kong was a very interesting one because it was more mining. It was just a mining conference. It's Bitmain, and so it was lot of altcoins, just not to say the word here, right? But just tons of it. And then they all think that their coin is the best one and that's going to be Bitcoin. So a few of them, because we were wearing, like our MPB t-shirts, they saw the El Salvador flag. Some of them were so surprised. I was like, are you guys from El Salvador? Like, what are you doing all the way here? How did you get here? We actually met with a Venezuelan guy. He's a part, part Chinese, part Venezuelan, who lives in China, but speaks well Spanish, and he has a Spanish channel. And apparently he's a little bit famous over there because he, we did a little interview, and one of our friends that we met in the conference from China is like, oh, he's really famous here. It's like, oh, that's cool. I really didn't know. He asked me, how did you guys came here? I was like, I don't know. They invited us and they pay. And he was like, they pay for everything? Yeah. And he was like, I had to pay for my ticket to get here. How do you get all of this for free? But so no, some of them, yes, especially the ones that are from Latin America. We met a few miners that are, had at least, I don't know now, miners in Paraguay, some in Canada. We met some Colombians. So they were a little bit, but in this one, it was, it's not all about the philosophy.
Yeah.
It was a lot of, just the money.
Yeah.
Which at the end is not a bad thing. Everybody's living in their own world.
Yeah.
So that was it mostly.
No, but that's great. You had that experience.
Yeah, so. It was really nice. It was really nice.
So how was it speaking up on stage?
Oh, it was nerve-wracking. Yeah, I feel a little bit more comfortable now, like in podcasts or everything. Again, it's a muscle. But back then, yeah, I was maybe it doesn't notice in the video, but I was shaking. It was shaking the first time. I would say maybe about mi primer Bitcoin too. And you're just in front of a crowd that they're good to the word is not the top on their minds. That's not the first thing that they think when they attend one of these conferences. So it was mostly about just... but it was very rewarding. At the end of the day, they did an after party, and one of the guys saw us with Wally. We went with Wally, who's a volunteer from the team, but he lived in China and speaks Chinese, so it was useful. And he was like, oh, your talk was, the most interesting thing of the day. Everybody was just sober, and I was like, oh, that's really nice. Like, thank you so much. It was really good to hear. And then they ask questions. They ask us if it's true, our president and the Bitcoin law, if it's true that you can pay everywhere with Bitcoin and so on, which it is and it isn't, right?
Yeah.
Again, you can live on a Bitcoin standard if you want with certain, you can take like Bitrefill and all of that. But other than that, it's not like super hyper Bitcoinization, but it's not going to happen overnight anyway. That's why we're here, to teach and try to empower people.
No, I'd love to dive more into that with you and just your impression of how Bitcoin has impacted El Salvador, because you read just like the international news, they'll talk about it being a failure. You talk to Bitcoiners and they're like, this is like the promised land. Like because you can live on a Bitcoin standard here. There's lots of people that all they do is spend Bitcoin. The supermarkets take it, gas stations now. Pretty much if you choose to, you can find businesses to only live. But that doesn't mean that every business is taking it. There's lots of businesses that you ask that aren't.
Yeah.
So I'm curious for you as a Salvadoran, how you see the impact that Bitcoin has had on El Salvador. I have my own theories, but I want to hear from you.
So on the way down today, we were just seeing all of these signs of building here, and then you see these big condos, and then building here, or buy this and for sale of what we're buying, etc. One of the things that I was talking with my parents were like, imagine how this road is going to look in 10 years. Not even that long, 10 years. Let's take a quick look back. It doesn't have to be 20 years ago. It has to be just 3 years ago. How different El Salvador was. Like even 7 years ago when I decided to go and try to live somewhere else, as close as Guatemala, because it was the closest that I could go. I'll probably go further if it was possible back then. I think... this is a theory that I have. I'm not saying that it's general for everybody, but for so many years also, the remittances have been a big, big part of people's life here. And what I find interesting and sometimes a little bit annoying from my community here, the Salvadorans, are trying to say that the government has to solve everything for you. We are just trying, you just have to take the opportunities as they go. learn another language if it opens more doors. I understand we're here and we speak Spanish, but go to Spain, go to Portugal, all of these places that I went, I did it in English. Hong Kong, Portugal, everything. They don't do it. It's just a middle language. Just start as simple as that, right? And to blend and to welcome. One of the things that I'm really proud of is that no matter, even on our darkest days, even on our worst, we were very welcoming. We were very welcoming. We were very kind. It was tricky. Sometimes you will see someone hiking on the street. You wouldn't want to take them because it was dangerous, but you will feel bad if you wouldn't. When I worked at a hostel in Guatemala, they would ask me, hey, we're going to South, especially on surf trips, especially the surfers. Where do you recommend to go to El Salvador? And I would be like, go here, and get out. It's just too dangerous. Just don't go here. So it was mainly El Tunco, right? So they would go here, drive to El Zonte, El Tunco, and then just go up to Nicaragua, down to Nicaragua. So Bitcoin at the beginning for me was, this is a bold thing. But if we look back at history, I mean, sometimes even in our personal life, the bold moves have the ones that have pushed us forward. The bold moves are the ones that are going to take a step up, and it's not overnight that anything is going to happen, but at the end of the day, life goes by. Even for us, sometimes you're like, oh no, I'm gonna learn that later. 1 year after, you could have done something. So I think I have two sides here. I think this is more and more personal, but I believe that the energy that you put out to the world, it's the one that you attract, and that's how your community and then your people that you surround yourself also inspires you to be a better person, which is what I tried when meeting new people at meetups and all of that, so they can feel that uplift that I feel with the community that I have now on Bitcoin. I'm not saying everybody's perfect. We all have our things. But in general, the sense of community and collaboration, and when I mean community, it's not living together. It's just like, you have friends going at conference right now, and you just feel that love, oh, wish you well, and the collaboration of, oh, so you guys do this, let's collaborate in this, like, we do with Bitcoin Beach. And it was one of the very first things that I will get my sense of when working and going to conference and starting to meeting other people, which is what I really, really loved. And this is what I want to transmit here, not seeing it, oh, everybody's coming and that's why everything is expensive, and then the real estate and we can afford a house. That's everywhere. Like, we just live in our little bubble thinking that this is just El Salvador. Believe me, people in Europe is far worse with the energy crisis and everything. And being able to, have self-sovereignty, financial freedom, take care, that's the thing. Take responsibility. It's a gift. And sometimes we don't want the responsibility gift. We just want, I just want to, buy Bitcoin and become millionaire next year. Even the ones that are billionaires in Bitcoin right now, how long did it take? 15 years. It's patient, slow time preference, which is the part that I believe sometimes people don't realize, don't want to see. And it's more about learning, studying Bitcoin. It's not everything about buy Bitcoin itself. Learned what it means to it. Like, what it's going to teach you. It's going to teach you low time preference. It's going to teach you to build, to be kinder, not want to be all the time in the photo and recognition, because not even, the creator of the best invention in the history of our time, to me, wanted to be there, like wanted to have his name stamp on it. So it's tricky. I really lived it, and I love it, but I'm not saying that that's the perspective of everyone, especially, I feel like I come here, or I go to the Bitcoin office and house, and we hang out, and it's one word. I go and have dinner with friends, and it's another word. Like, we still have these conversations about, yes, and the government have done this, but they haven't done the other.
Yeah.
But they have this, but they haven't done the other. And I'm like, take a break. Like, look at us. Isn't it easier to build on a place that is more safe, that I can take an Uber with my laptop anywhere? A friend from Guatemala, he works at a marketing firm that managed the whole Camperos and all of that. So he came recently because, the Luces Campero in December. So he had to lose the fireworks that they do every year, the fighters. So he had to come and do.
So Salvadorans don't like to admit it, but Pollo Campero is really from Guatemala. So
Oh my God, that is So yeah, I didn't. It's like San Martin too. I believe San Martin is also. We thought
Oh,
that it
I
was
didn't know that was from
Yeah,
Guatemala too.
Guatemala
Okay.
too. They're so pretty in Guatemala. Yes, it's from Guatemala originally. So he came to this negotiation, went to have dinner, and he messaged me in the middle of the day. Where do you recommend to have lunch? So I was like, where are you at? Oh, just go here because Margot is so cool. Blah, blah, blah. And then he messaged me, Reyna, it feels so safe here. Like I just walk around, I can go with my laptop. I can't leave my car in the street in Guatemala City anymore. I'm going to get a tire or a mirror. Something is going to be missing when I come back. And it doesn't feel like the way. And it's exactly like that now. Even for us, on learning the part of the security was a process. So, with my family, we live in San Salvador. We were fortunate enough, it was never in the super red areas, but still, if Pizza Hut and Pollo Campero don't go to your house, you are in the middle. If they don't go to your door, it's because so we will still have to walk around the block.
That was how you knew the bad areas. It's where the places wouldn't do delivery too.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you had to go, come to the parada, the buses, like the bus stop, to pick up your pedidos. So look at how much pedidos ya have picked up.
Yeah.
And even us doing all these visits, with the Minister of Education and going to all these areas, even right now, I've messaged them and it's like, is it safe to go there? Are you sure our boys are go? Because it's Soyapango and all of these areas that were tricky. And I was like, yeah. We asked the teachers, everything good. And even the teachers now, like they ask us, I would go and have conversations the few times that I've been able to go. It used to be more like dangerous here, right? We went to Ciudad Delgado, which is even the school, like you go all the way down in the car. And the kids were like, yes, but it's better now. So even for them to be able to escape, from those clocks of violence, that's already happened in a lot of the schools for high schoolers. It's not that they actually wanted to go or enter the guns. They sort of had no choice. They were forced. And the violence in El Salvador, people don't realize how bad it was. That speak to any Salvadoran, we all have either a family member or a close friend that have lost family due to violence. Yeah. So I understand, I get it. I understand a little bit of the human rights perspective. I get it. I don't want to be that naive, but it's hard for me to sympathize when you've lived here and you feel trapped in your own area. You feel trapped to take an Uber. I would never use Uber. My cousin works at a repairing shop, and they used to and they used to attend a lot of detectives from the police. And one of the first stories I was like, never let your girls or kids let them take Ubers. There are so many disappearances happening there. There are so many girls kidnapping. And I believe that was another type of mafia. It wasn't just the violence, because you would find boys' bodies, but will never find women bodies. And, you just do the math. Yeah. So I will follow sometimes the news around El Salvador and a little bit of Peru and then Guatemala of all of this missing. And it was a trend that you could see that it was a trend. I'm like, something is going on here. And they all, so even the ones that are there, even if you have sometimes people that or used to know when you were young that are in jail right now, that they're there for a reason. Yeah. It's as sad as it is. A couple of guys that I grew up with in my neighborhood when I was a kid, they're there. And I'm sad for them because that's the path that they choose. But I wouldn't put the hands on fire for them. I just hope that they definitely don't have it as hard as it looks and recover and do something for society. But a lot of, I think, that resentment sometimes is because we were so used to also get, remittances is how free money works, right? Just and not work for it. Yeah. And Bitcoin also chose you to work. There is proof of work on it. And taking that responsibility and having a clear vision and what you want to do with life takes courage. And you got to do the work in order to succeed.
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with some people's attitude towards government here. They think government should do everything for them, where really it's a job of government to kind of make it safe to have prosperous businesses and to stay out of the way. Yeah. And so I think that is one of the cultural changes that I'm seeing Bitcoin have an impact. The other thing you mentioned was remittances. For a lot of people, that was almost like a form of welfare because they didn't It's like, well, I work here, I can only make $300 a month, but my brother's sending me $300 a month. So, I would
Exactly.
see people quit their jobs because they're like, no, my brother now he's sending me money, so I don't have to work. I'm like, well, you could keep working and save and build a
Yeah.
business, but the mindset was like, just live for today. Where I feel like with Bitcoin, like you said, it lowers your time preference and it is
Yep.
switching people's mentalities.
Yes, and I hope that that continues to grow, like that mentality, especially on young kids, that they are starting to see the world this way, because there is a lot of that you learn from your parents, good and bad. And some examples can be that, right? Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
your aunt or your grandparents send us money, and then yeah, whatever, you just spend it. And what you said is so true about the mindset of thinking that the government is going to solve everything. I was having this conversation also with a Salvadorian I just met. It's like, yeah, but they haven't done much in education either. And I was like, really? Because this is public, right?
Yeah.
So I was able to say, like, we are working. I try to be careful when I share it with
Yeah.
Salvadorans.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
different pushback. But like, we are working, in developing this curriculum for kids. They're going to learn about money, how it works, the history, and how it's created since a very young age, second, third, and fourth grade. When did we learn that? We're not going to see that next year. We're not going to see that in the next 5 years. We're going to see it in 15 or 20. But that's vision, right? And it's the same as too, I think. Young adults, older, even or parents can learn from something from it. I've met, friends older, like, have nice families and everything. That doesn't mean that they feel like their life has ended.
Yeah.
You just try to build and do something. And it's very amazing to see when someone that even with the resistance that they have felt and they have lived the whole life is starting to switch that mindset, because it takes time. I'm not saying it's easier said than done. Even for us, it's an exercise every day to try to practice gratitude and all of that. It's not easy, but now it's way easier. I mean, we live in a place where we are free to go anywhere, and we can open a coffee shop at the middle of side of the road when it wasn't before. Everything that we said today, we live really close to Centro Histórico, my family and I in San Salvador. So especially for Christmas, we go to see the lights, so pretty. And one night we were sitting with my brother and my sister last year. It's like, can you imagine? We would never be at 10 p.m. in this area, ever. Just not.
No.
So, yeah, my brother, so he's younger, but he's 30 now. He's just with typical Salvadorian and skinny, so you doesn't look his age. And that was our main fear when he would go to work and then come back. If someone will tell you, I'm going to be there at 8:30 and it was 8:40 and they weren't there, you would get super scared because something would happen. So we are not living that anymore. You can have a job, even at Super Selectos, even somewhere, but you can go and, get dropped off. They can pick you up, they can drop you off at night because it's safe now. So now it's just a matter of us getting to work. A country is going to succeed and develop and get better by the population, the community. I mean, the guy and the president can do everything he can.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's up to the population. Yes, exactly.
No, well, I think that's a good positive note to end on. We didn't talk about Me Premier Bitcoin that much, right? But we've talked about it recently with John, and so I'm just want to tell the audience, like, Me Premier Bitcoin is doing amazing work. I mean, not just here in El Salvador. They're through their node network. They have all of these educational projects going on around the world. A number of the circular Bitcoin economies that we work with, in fact, probably the majority of them now have teamed up and have become nodes of the node network, are doing the courses, and are seeing the courses they produce have a huge impact on their circular economies. So for people that are looking for something to support, definitely support Me Premier Bitcoin. We try to support them whenever we can. They're having a huge, great impact. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, but I was trying to do your sales job for you. So.
Yes, thank you, Mike. No, I really appreciate that, and thank you for having us. It is true. That's one of the whys I started with Me Premier, or probably I stayed. I think when you work and put your energy towards something that you want to live a life more meaningful, the monetary part afterwards comes easily. When you do a job that you love and you feel like it has some impact in the world, it's easier. That's why I think working for Bitcoin feels right, because the people that you work with, they're so great. Every mind that you meet, with their own things and everything in different countries, provide something good for the world, which is a really, good to see in the world. We need that more in the world. So thank you, everything, for what you guys do also and help us out. I'm really happy to be here. And I hope, that we see anyone here around. Feel free to reach out.
How can people contact you? I'm assuming you're on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle so they can follow you?
What's my Twitter handle? Reyna Chicas? Yeah, Reyna Chicas, number 2. I lost the first one, so I had to add a number 2. It was just as easy as that. Yeah, that's what John says. Number 2. Remember the number 2. Yeah, and my first Bitcoin, at my first Bitcoin too. And our website, we are having a non-conference in November before adopting. Super great. So we're having a graduation.
I went to the one in Nashville, and it was
Oh, you went? Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Really, really. They're very, they're very different. And last year we didn't understand what we wanted to do. What was the whole idea, and when we put it into life, it's like, okay, so this is what it is. So it's really cool. I'm also, because it happens, I'm a woman, right? We're also co-organizing a women's in Bitcoin by Mujeres in Bitcoin brunch before, so more Salvadorians can get involved. I think we need a little bit more of that too. It's just a perfect energy when we work together, I think. And so far, it's a lot of guys, but I think we're getting there. We're coming. Yeah. But no, thank you for having us. That's it.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to have you back on, and in 6 months or a year from now, and get updates on what's happening. But I love hearing it from your perspective as a Salvadoran that's seen the way that Bitcoin is impacting the country in a way that people on the outside might not realize. That it's not just about every store taking Bitcoin. It's about the way that Bitcoin influences people's time preference, their optimism about the world, all these little things that have a huge impact on how society, like the direction that it goes. And so that's why in El Salvador, I feel like there's this huge optimism. When you go to other places where they're much richer, even places like Europe, but they're like, people are all negative and they feel like the world's getting worse, where in El Salvador, people feel like the world's getting better.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I could have said it better. It's exactly like that. I had, the opportunity now, thanks to, the mission and the chances that they ask us to speak. And I would go to these countries that I look up to before, Europe and all of that. And someone can tell me, oh, but you cannot pay everywhere in Bitcoin there. But I can pay more places than here. I can pay all my groceries and Starbucks and everything, and which is amazing. And I think that people has to start seeing it, that they're part of, we were bad, we still have work to do, but we can do this together. We can do this together if we think about, what we're going to provide to the others. It's way easier. To me, it's just magic. That happens when you work towards a better future, because you're just not trying to, just go and hit the other one and to succeed on your own. And which is what is happening in El Salvador now, in my opinion. If people want to take it, we're here for it. And I think we're very welcoming. Everybody in the Bitcoin community is super, super welcoming. We use our skills to the best of our abilities and that we can, and everybody is welcome. So that doesn't happen everywhere.
So if you have any doubts of what is the amazing thing that's happening in El Salvador, come visit yourself, put some boots on the ground, and you got to see it for yourself, and then you can make your own decision. And I meet very few people that once they come here don't leave with this like, wow, this is really real and really happening.
Exactly. Or us when we travel and then we just want to come home.
Exactly. All right. Well, I'll let you go join your family at the beach here.
Thank you, Mike.